Hey everyone, welcome back. To all the King's Academy parents out there with Year 6 students, I know SATs week is coming up and you might be feeling, I don't know, maybe a little bit like you're on a roller coaster. But don't worry, we're here to help break it all down and give you some practical advice on how to support your kids.
You know, it's funny. We hear that word SATs, and instantly we just picture this super high pressure exam that determines a child's whole future. But in reality, it's a lot more nuanced than that,
Yeah,
right?
it's like that old saying, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right, exactly. These tests are designed to measure all the knowledge that your child has learned really throughout Key Stage 2. So that's, years 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's not just about what they've learned this year. It's really a culmination of their entire primary school journey.
And I bet that's reassuring for some parents to hear. Like, oh, it's not like they have to suddenly cram everything in at the last minute.
Not at all. And the great thing is King's Academy has already been, sort of weaving in SAT-style questions into their, everyday lessons. So the format itself won't feel strange or alien to the children. They'll be familiar with the structure and the types of questions they might see.
Yeah, okay, so that takes care of the what of SATs. Now let's get into the when and where. The school information packet lays it all out, and the good news is the schedule is really designed with the kids in mind. One test per day, usually wrapped up before 10:30 each morning.
And to make things even, more comfortable, the tests are held in, familiar places like their classrooms, the ICT suite. Sometimes they use smaller rooms for, students who need a quieter setting.
I love that they put so much thought into creating a calm environment. And of course, we can't forget the legendary SATs breakfast.
Ah, yes, the SATs breakfast. I hear the bacon sandwiches on the last day are a real hit.
You know it. A little treat to celebrate all that hard work. But now, let's get down to brass tacks and look at each subject. First up, spelling, punctuation, and grammar, or SPAG, as it's affectionately known.
SPAG is a two-parter. You've got one paper focused on grammar and punctuation, testing their knowledge of things like different verb forms, the ever-tricky subjunctive mood, and of course, the correct use of commas, apostrophes, and the rest of the punctuation crew.
It sounds like they're really putting those grammar muscles to the test.
Absolutely. And then the second SPAG paper is all about the spelling test, where accuracy is key. It's all about clear, legible handwriting. None of that fancy cursive, just good old-fashioned printed letters.
Think they'd accept emojis as punctuation. Just kidding. All right, moving on to reading.
The reading test is a 60-minute, it's really all about comprehension. They'll encounter a bunch of different types of questions, but there are three that, tend to show up a little more frequently.
Oh, tell us more. I'm sure parents are dying to know how they can help their children prepare.
Well, firstly, there are questions that ask the student to define words, based on their context within the passage. Then there are those that are focused on just retrieving specific information, like those detail-oriented questions. And then lastly, the ones that call for making inferences, which is, all about reading between the lines and supporting those conclusions with evidence from the text.
Okay, so when you're reading together at home, it's worth focusing on those three types of questions, kind of giving them a sneak peek into the examiner's mind. Now, let's tackle the behemoth in the room, maths.
Maths is indeed a multifaceted beast. It's divided into three papers: arithmetic, reasoning 1, and reasoning 2.
Three papers. Wow, okay. What are the key areas they should be focusing on?
So for the arithmetic paper, it's all about fluency in those fundamentals: fractions, decimals, percentages, and the four basic operations, your addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division.
So really building that strong foundation. Okay. What about the reasoning papers? Those sound a bit more intense.
Yeah, they do kind of ramp up the challenge. Reasoning papers require a bit more problem solving, and they cover a wider range of topics like geometry, ratios, statistics, units of measure, shapes, even Roman numerals.
It's like a mathematical smorgasbord.
It is. And a key point to remember is that relationship between fractions, decimals, and percentages. Understanding how these concepts connect is vital for success in those reasoning papers. They need to see the bigger picture, not just individual isolated bits of information.
Just it's all about connecting the dots and applying that knowledge in different situations.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I know parents are itching to know, how can we support our children during this, potentially stressful time?
Well, the information packet offers some really good advice. First, make sure your child attends school every day during SATs week. Seems pretty obvious, but it's worth emphasizing. And make sure they arrive on time for that delicious SATs breakfast. It's not just about the food. It's about, starting the day with a sense of community and routine.
Yeah, I love that. It sets the positive tone for the day.
And on a practical note, if your child takes any, regular medication, ensure they have it before school. It's all about minimizing distractions and making sure they can focus.
So it's all about creating that calm and supportive environment, both physically and emotionally. But what happens if a child wakes up feeling unwell on the morning of a test?
If they're feeling a bit under the weather, give them any helpful medication before school. Things like Calpol or antihistamines. Let the school know and send them in as usual. After the test, if they're still unwell, the school will call you to pick them up.
Okay, so it's kind of a judgment call based on how they're feeling.
Exactly. Now, if they're like too unwell to even come to school, they won't be able to have any contact with other pupils until after they've done the test. This is, just to ensure fairness and prevent any potential sharing of information.
Makes perfect sense. It's all about maintaining that level playing field.
That's right. And it's important to remember that SATs are just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to, assessing your child's abilities.
They're a snapshot, not the whole picture. And that's an important message for both parents and children to remember.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from what SATs are and what they cover to how parents can provide that all-important support during this time. So welcome back, everyone. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about what happens after, the pencils are down and the tests are all sent off to be marked.
Let's demystify this whole results process because, I mean, I'm sure that's a big question mark for a lot of parents. Like, what happens to those test papers once they leave the school?
Right. Well, each test is marked externally, to make sure everything's impartial. And then the results come back to the school with a few different types of scores.
Okay, so break it down for us. What are these different scores? What do they tell us?
Well, first you have the raw score, which is, pretty simple. It's just the total number of marks your child got on each paper.
Okay, straightforward enough.
Right. But then there's the scaled score, and that's where things get a little bit more nuanced.
Scaled score. Okay, what's the purpose of that?
So the scale score is designed to, kind of take into account how difficult the tests were, from year to year. Think of it as a way to level the playing field. So a scaled score of, let's say, 110 one year might represent a slightly different level of performance than, a scaled score of 110 in a different year.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's ensuring that, that the children are being assessed fairly,
Right.
even if the tests themselves are slightly different in difficulty from one year to the next.
Precisely. And then finally, you have a judgment on whether or not your child has met the national standard.
Right, so it's not just about how many questions they get right, but also how their performance compares to kind of national benchmark. What's the range for these scaled scores, by the way?
So scaled scores go from 80 to 120, and a score of 100 or more means that your child has met the national standard.
Okay, that gives parents a good reference point. So those scores provide a valuable snapshot of how your child is performing academically, compared to other pupils across the country. But it's, as we said before, it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Couldn't agree more. King's Academy really recognizes that every child is unique. They're committed to nurturing those individual talents and abilities that go way beyond what can be measured on any standardized test.
Absolutely. And speaking of nurturing and support, the information packet mentions booster groups and interventions. Can you tell us more about those?
Oh, of course. So these are fantastic resources that King's Academy provides. In addition to, regular lessons, booster groups and interventions are led by qualified teachers, and they're designed to address any gaps or misconceptions in learning.
So it's a way to provide targeted support, making sure that each child has the tools they need to really succeed.
Exactly. It's all about, creating a learning environment where every child can thrive and reach their full potential no matter where they're starting from. Now, I know parents often have some, practical questions about this whole process, so let's tackle a few of those. The SATs breakfast is a big one.
Mhm.
Is it mandatory?
Yeah. Is it a must attend every day?
Well, it's not compulsory, but it's definitely encouraged. Some children really thrive on routine, and attending breakfast every day, helps them get into a rhythm. Others might prefer to just go on certain days. It really depends on your child and what works best for them.
It's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between routine and flexibility. Now, for the foodies out there, what's actually on the menu at the SATs breakfast?
Well, they've got a good spread. Toast, fruit, and brioche rolls are the staples. And then
Mhm.
to celebrate the last day of SATs, they go all out with bacon sandwiches or seitan sandwiches if you prefer the vegetarian option.
Oh, celebratory breakfast. I love that.
Yep.
What time should children arrive for breakfast?
So breakfast is served in the Globe from 8:20 a.m.
Okay, so plenty of time to fuel up and get ready for the tests. Now, before we move on, I think it's important to circle back to a point we made earlier. SATs, while a valuable tool for measuring academic progress, don't tell the whole story. They focus mainly on maths and English, but your child's worth is measured by so much more than that.
Absolutely. SATs don't measure a child's artistic flair, their musical talents, their athletic abilities, or their, incredible personal qualities. It really just offers a glimpse into, their academic journey at this specific moment in time.
Right, it's a snapshot, not a complete portrait. And that's so crucial for us as parents to remember.
And let's not forget, those national standard thresholds can change a bit from year to year, based on how the country does as a whole. So what's considered meeting expectations this year might be different next year.
It's all relative, isn't it? It's important to remember that SATs week itself is like just 4 days out of their entire primary school experience.
And even within those 4 days, there's only 1 or 2 papers a day lasting between 30 and 60 minutes each. It's really just a blip on the radar.
A glip, but with a lot of hype around it, perhaps. But ultimately, it is a small part of their overall educational journey.
Exactly. So let's shift our focus to the bigger picture. How can we, as parents and educators, help our children approach SATs week with a positive mindset and a sense of calm? How can we equip them to navigate this experience with confidence and resilience?
And that's the perfect question to lead us into our final part. We'll be right back after a short break to discuss some practical tips for creating a supportive and encouraging environment for your child during this time. Welcome back to our final segment. We've talked about, what SATs are, how they're structured, and what those results actually mean. Now let's talk about, how can we help our year 6 children, face this whole experience with confidence and just a sense of calm.
Creating that positive and nurturing environment at home is like so important. It's easy to get caught up in the pressure of SATs, but we need to remember a child's self-worth should never be tied to, test scores.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
There's so much more than a number, on a test paper.
Exactly. And they can sense our anxiety. So it's really important for us to project that calm and reassuring attitude. So instead of focusing on, specific results, let's try to shift the focus to effort and perseverance. Let's celebrate their hard work and remind them that we're proud of them, regardless of the outcome.
It's about fostering that growth mindset.
Right.
Like encouraging them to see challenges, to embrace challenges and view mistakes as opportunities to learn.
Absolutely. And remember, a well-rested brain is a happy brain, right?
Yeah.
Make sure your child is getting enough sleep leading up to the tests. It can make such a difference for their concentration and their focus.
I think we often underestimate the power of a good night's sleep. It's like hitting the reset button.
Yeah, it really is. And while we're talking about things that fuel our bodies, let's not forget about, healthy eating habits.
Right.
Make sure they're starting their day with a nutritious breakfast and pack those healthy snacks to keep their energy levels up throughout the day.
It's all about, taking a holistic approach,
Yeah.
nurturing their physical and emotional well-being, alongside that academic preparation.
Right, precisely. And don't underestimate the power of downtime too, Encourage them to take breaks from studying, engage in activities they enjoy, spend time with family and friends. It's all about that balance.
Downtime is so important for, just recharging those batteries.
Yeah.
Helps them come back to their studies feeling, refreshed and motivated.
And perhaps most importantly, keep those lines of communication open. Encourage your children to talk about how they're feeling about the tests and really listen to their concerns.
Yeah, sometimes just having someone who, totally listens can make all the difference.
It really can. And remember, you're not alone in this. King's Academy has this wonderful, dedicated team of educators who are there to support both you and your child. Don't hesitate to reach out to them if you have any, questions or concerns.
There are partners in this journey. So to wrap things up, remember, parents, you play such a vital role in shaping your child's experience, with these SATs. By fostering that supportive, positive, and nurturing environment, you can empower them to approach these tests, with confidence and a sense of calm. SATs are just one little milestone in a much larger journey, and your love and encouragement are, truly the most valuable gifts you can give.
We really hope that this has given you some valuable insights and some practical tips to help you, navigate this whole SATs week with a bit more ease. Remember, King's Academy is committed to supporting each and every child's individual learning journey, and we're all in this together.
Thank you so much for joining us, and to all the Year 6 students at King's Academy, we know you'll do great.